Family favorites, new movies you must see from my family to yours. Before we begin with my three new family favorite films, let me just say with full disclosure that I have never been a movie fan. The movie theater was always a place for me to catch a few winks and much needed naps. Since the pandemic, however, film and TV have become a sort of inescapable portal to my sanity. And for my family, movie hour has become the time to pique our curiosity, spark conversations about important life topics in a fun way, and gather ideas for creative projects afterwards. With that in mind, I have to share our latest home cinema favorites, which have left me and my family watching on repeat. Jungle Cruise. As a mom who grew up watching WWE's The Rock at the beginning of his career, Dwayne always gets a chance to sell me on his films. Beyond his chiseled physique, though, the juxtaposition of his strong appearance with the vulnerability of his history combined with well timed humor makes me mention this movie first. Jungle Cruise is a story about a privileged woman who sets out on a journey to find a cure for all things. Along the way, she encounters several setbacks on account of her gender and must rely on several men who are less brave and less trustworthy than she, like the scamming Frank owes me money skipper, played by Dwayne Johnson. What I really love about this film are the strong female lead, the childish humor, and the beauty of the Amazon. Emily Blunt's character is my kind of girl, a persistent heroine who will stop at nothing to save the world. Not chauvinism, not her fear of water, and not even the Mission Impossible itself. I love that this movie takes on the topics of feminism, LGBTQ acceptance, diversity, and wraps it all into a fun little Disney package. If I'm going to be completely honest about my recommendations, though, I do have to point out one thing that really bothered me and continues to bother me about American films: the German Nazi villain. Is it just me, or is it like the film industry's job to continue trudging down this hypocritical path of unforgiveness as it uses every opportunity to paint German and Russian characters as the unredeemable enemy? It's done to death, it's propaganda, and it's lazy. Frankly, I think that the plot and the villain backstory could have been much more interesting, but the good news is that none of that stopped the richness of fun and adventure. If you have daughters, don't mind catching an eyeful of The Rock for an hour plus. Like a good adventure and want to laugh, make sure to put this on your weekend watch list. Encanto. Welcome to the family Madrigal. And bienvenidos. My daughter is absolutely obsessed with this new film, Encanto. And after watching it for the third time in 1 week, I might have to admit that I'm a bit hypnotized too. Encanto is a story about the Colombian family Madrigal, which thrives by the blessings of their individual gifts, and all of those gifts stem from a very tragic beginning years ago. The family is the center of the village, and the village has come to rely on the family's gifts. Of course, this creates some pressure, but every gifted family member is proud. The only problem is that one family member is still waiting to receive their gift. But if it's up to another family member, they will never receive the gift that could destroy them all. Having spent time in South America over the past 3 years, Argentina, I love seeing the warm, loving funness that the Madrigal family brings to the big screen. From the colors to the music to the message, I love everything about this film. What I love most, though, is the focus on family. These days, films tend to focus on one character as a central focal point of the storyline. And although the story does have a main character, the story would be nothing without everyone else. I also love that Disney has obviously done some diversity and inclusion work in house, which is seen in their vibrant portrayal of the family members. As the story takes place in Colombia, it would be very easy to feature light skinned Latins and Latinas who are typically the ones thrust to the forefront to represent a much more diverse group of people. However, the creative and corporate leaders of this film can be congratulated for all of the many shades, shapes, and sizes of characters represented in the story. In my opinion, they did a particularly great job in the way that they chose the tanned skinned daughter for the most beautiful sister, and kudos for allowing the strongest sister to still be feminine. Shang-Chi. And speaking of representation and diversity, let's talk about the Asian side of film. Shang-Chi is easily my favorite new movie on the market, but I've always been a fan of epic fight scenes and adrenaline rush cinema. Shang-Chi is a story of a young warrior who ran away from his past, and although he thought he'd escaped it, suddenly it's come directly to his doorstep in San Francisco to haunt him. What I love about this film is, well, there's so much that I don't even know where to start, but I love the balancing act between East and West and how the story makes the Asian culture, a culture that can seem so foreign, feel familiar. I love Aquafina's character as the hilarious, refreshingly candid, and strong female sidekick. I also love that hint of romance at the end that left out the gushy, I always loved you ending. And speaking of strong women, can we also send 1,000 heart eye emojis to Shang-Chi's mom? Yes, girl. Now, let's cozy into another honest moment. While I loved the Mandarin woven seamlessly into the movie for me, it does create a challenge for younger children who may not yet read swiftly. I read the subtitles aloud for my children, mustering all of the acting skills that I don't have, and despite the mild interruption, they still loved it. So, those are my favorite new movies, and I'm sure with the pandemic changing rules every day, we're in for many more to come. In the meantime, I'm dying to know which are your favorites on the market now. Let me know in the comment section wherever you found this article. And happy watching to you and yours.